2020 with them infinity, integrate, felicity, and solidarity. I would like to say my honorable to Dr. Putri Bintu Sisyati, SAMA, as our moderator for today, and Mr. John Hopkins as world-class entrepreneur and practitioner, and our special speaker for today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, because we're done with our breaks, now we will start our second session with a talk show by theme Startup and Business Network Development. Without any further ado, we would like to welcome Mr. John Hopkins as a world-class entrepreneur, and he will be interviewed by Dr. Putri Bintu Sisyati, SAMA, that we will lead the talk show until the Q&A session. Please welcome Mr. John Hopkins and Dr. Putri Bintu Sisyati, SAMA. Time and place is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Miss.
Okay, I see you all still fresh, right? Even though you already start this event from this morning. So it will be great to see you again, this second part. And before we are listening to Mr. Hopkins for his sharing, I would like to share a little bit information about Mr. Hopkins. He is with the Royal Porthcawl Golf Club since 1979, and also then established the academy, and also worked for the Mayland Golf and Country Club in Greater London in 90s, and also worked for University of Highland and Islands in Scotland, 2004, and since 2006 up till now, he's one of the advisor to the board of directors of PTMAP Resources Indonesia, who have helped a lot on transportation for the company. And seeing the variety of his experience, we believe that his experience and sharing will be very useful to us, and especially to those in economy, right? So you all related to business and in later on, and I hope his experience will help us in coping with the future. So before that, I would like to say that today is also the commemoration of Tsunami Aceh, and deep condolences to those who grieve the death of their parents, relation, and beloved ones. And I believe even though not all, but some of us also experiencing the grief of a disaster of the tsunami. And but as you know, even though it is a disaster, it's also a great exposure of Aceh to the world, and it makes us more connected to the world now. And so the experience of Mr. Hopkins will give us an insight and an enlightenment on how we relate it to the world, especially in business, as we are all economic students. So the place, and now we would welcome Mr. Hopkins to give us a speech on startup and networking development. And after that, we will receive some questions from you all to have a good discussion, especially in experiencing business and startup. Mr. Hopkins, please have the floor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And thank you. And thank you to Ibu Putri for the kind introduction. It's much appreciated. And likewise, I'd like to pass on my deepest commiserations to the families of the people in Aceh who sadly lost their loved ones on the 26th of December. And like I say, it's still a big hole in all of our hearts. I must say that. So, just to give you a little bit of detail on myself, my name is John Hopkin. I'm spent many wonderful years in Indonesia, and my wife is from Java, from West Java. She's a geologist and a petrophysicist, and my background is in professional golf. As you are aware, I started my training at Royal Porthcawl Golf Club, which is one of the top 30 clubs in the UK. It's held all the major championships apart from the British Open. I then graduated from there and moved to a very busy golf club in London, just between just inside the M25 orbital motorway around London, and I worked there for quite a few years as the head golf professional and then as the golf director. So that's really my golfing background. I worked also on designing golf courses and building golf courses for a big French bank, UFB Humber-Clyde, and that was quite a challenging experience as well, organizing the full construction of the golf course and then the actual management of it afterwards. From there, I then moved to working with Lloyds Bank on the trade and project finance side, and that was my first introduction to Indonesia, where fortunately Allah blessed me and I met my wife. And so I did move back to the UK and then worked at Securitas, which is one of the biggest, or probably the biggest security company in the world. I was the area director there for a few years, running 3 offices out of Southampton, Bristol and Swansea. I had about 500 staff and a 25 million pound budget, and we had many contracts, and these contracts varied in size and were quite challenging. Some were port projects where we were supplying the security for the ports. Some were for banks, insurance companies, all different types of organizations. And so that gave me a great experience into the running of these bigger companies, these bigger multinationals. Then I've worked in Indonesia in an advisory capacity. I was fortunate enough to establish the MAP Consortium, which was one of the 3 shortlisted bidders for the Central Kalimantan Railway project. Our partners within that included Russian Railways from Russia, also Colas Rail from France, and Forbes and Manhattan, which is a merchant bank and a mining company from Canada. We also had local partners in PT Petrosi and PT MAP itself. So that was, again, a great experience. It was a very big project, about $2.5 billion project, and encompassed, working with people like BKPM, the Ministry of Finance, also on the local side, the local ministries of transport, the Bupatis and the governors, and then working with the big mining companies like BHP Billiton, PT Adaro, and so again, a whole spectrum of different interests, and all with different sort of objectives, what they wanted from the railway. So latterly, PT MAP has been working with overseas investors into Indonesia, working and advising them on the commercial value of their coal concessions or their mineral concessions. And again, that has meant preparing the reports for these investors in a way that makes commercial sense to them. I'm very raw to this presentation side of things. I have done a couple of presentations at the Modern Railway Conference in Bali and also at Coal Trans Conference. But I must admit, and if you'd forgive me, that this is, I'm not, although I've done a little bit in Scotland, this is a little bit outside my comfort zone. So I'd be grateful if you bear with me if I make some errors here today. Anyway, I'd like to do a presentation and talk you through that presentation. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. So you'll lose me for a little while once I share my screen and go through the slides.
Please, sir. You can see.
So this is my very privileged today to be at the, I hope my pronunciation is right, the Sia Kula University in Aceh. And I am very grateful to the committee and Pak Talbani for inviting me to speak today. And I hope that maybe I can give some insight into the subject matter, which is startup and business network development. So what is a startup business? A startup is a young company business founded by one or more entrepreneurs to develop a unique product or service and bring it to market. By its nature, the typical startup tends to be a shoestring operation with initial funding from the funders or their families and friends. Startups have no history and cannot show a profit in the first years of trading. Subsequently, investing in them is risky. However, intangible assets can include goodwill, brand recognition, and intellectual property, such as patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Now, I think it's important that to realize that small businesses differ from startups. But networking is important for both. My history has been really with small business. So, like I say, the startup side, I haven't. Although my business in the golf side was technically a startup, it already had income in the way that when you're a golf professional, your income comes from a number of sources, and one of those is the club pays you a retaining fee. So you get a monthly retaining fee from the golf club, and also then you get a percentage of the visitors' fees, normally about 10%. That then is topped up by your retail sales from your golf shop and your repair income and your teaching income. So it's not really a startup. So my experience of startup is a little bit rusty. But I do understand the setting up of a small business. So hopefully I can enlarge on that as we go through the slides. So if we look at the statistics from America, it's a very interesting statistic. And again, maybe in the questions and answers, you can, people who have questions on this or observations on this. But 58% of US startups start up with less than $25,000 capital. 33% of US startups actually have less than 5,000 capital. 70% of US entrepreneurs initiate their startup from their homes. 73% of US entrepreneurs are male. 57% are age 50 years and over. and 71% are white Caucasian. So in summing up, in America, your typical entrepreneur is a middle-class, middle-aged white male worker from home, working from home. So again, this is interesting in the fact that we can see from the figures that interested me was one that it is a male-dominated, and two, the age, 57% are 50 and over. So it just shows it actually startups are not just a young person's domain. It actually over half of the startups were from people 50 years and above. Also, again, 71% white Caucasian. Again, that's an interesting statistic, meaning that only 29% of people of color, Hispanics, etc., make so really they are very much in the minority as far as startups are concerned, which is maybe an interesting subject and highlights some of the problems that America is going through at the moment. So basically, I think that the students that are there from the economic faculty have already covered the setting up a business, startup business, growing a startup business, and they've covered all aspects of it. So, excuse me, I'm just going to have a quick drink. So, so really, I've put this down into a slightly more abbreviated style because I'm sure that your tutors have gone through the different elements of actually starting the business. So basically, you've got the concept and research side, which is appraisal of your capabilities as such, the business idea, your passion for that business. Your market research, which is critical, including your real life test if possible, to actually test the water and see if your idea stacks up. Then you've got your commitment, which is really your business plan, which is reflected in the financing of your startup, the time that it's going to take, how much time you can give it, whether you're running another job and then doing the startup in your spare time, team building, etc. Whether there's one or two or three of you setting up this business. Validation is are your products accepted in the marketplace? Do they fit in the marketplace? So really, it's establishing that customer base. Have you managed to get the right product in the right place? Refinement then is building on that, improving the product or service to better fit the demands of that marketplace. Then you've got the scaling up, growing the business by optimizing your marketing strategies. And scaling mechanisms should be part of this of a good business plan. And then the final one is becoming established, gaining that critical mass in the marketplace, and then maybe looking at other countries or other maybe on some sort of franchising or whatever. So you've got the business in that place where it has real value. Again, like I say, these are things that I believe you have covered, and I've just wanted to praise them for you now. Moving on. What is business networking, and how does business networking really play into that startup matrix we've just talked about? So the Wikipedia definition of business networking, and this is just a very basic interpretation, but I think it hits the nail on the head. Networking is a socio-economic business activity by which business people and entrepreneurs meet to form business relationships and to recognize, create, or act upon business opportunities, share information, and seek potential partners for ventures. In the second half of the 20th century, the concept of networking was promoted to help business people to build their social capital. I think that's a fair definition. For me personally, networking has always been a critical part of what I've done over the years, and has been one of the key components in some of the successful things that I've managed to do. Starting with the golf, when you start at Royal Porthcawl, for example, it has probably about 700 to 800 members, maybe going up to 900 members. All these people, because of the prestige of the club, are captains of industry, or they're professional people. They're high court judges, or they're surgeons, or they're like I say, they head very big companies, public companies, big private companies. And as a young man going into that environment, it can be very daunting. But at the same time, you can use that. The network that affords you to maybe look at other opportunities, not just in golf, but in other aspects of business. The same happened up in London, up at Maylands Golf and Country Club. It's located in the east side of London, very close to the banking district, for example. And it was there that I started to build the relationships with some of the major banks, like Lloyds Bank, JP Morgan, also some of the big solicitor companies, and some of the big insurance companies. And through that networking, I was then able to generate business for the golf club, whether that was through not only holding sort of company days for these big companies, but also then maybe getting them to come to the golf club for various events. Maybe if they wanted to do a conference, small conference, they would come to the golf club and use our facilities for that. So again, it was using that networking, to generate that secondary business to our core business. And then again, when I've come to Indonesia, I've used that networking to good effect, and I've been very fortunate to have dealt with some of the highest levels of government in Indonesia because of that networking that is very prominent in Indonesia. And in many ways, it's very difficult to do business in Indonesia if you haven't got that network in place. So moving on, what role does networking play in establishing a startup? So most businesses are networking as a key factor in their marketing plan. Advisable, therefore, for startups to incorporate a phased-in approach to networking in their business plan. Again, when you're a startup, or when you are a startup, sometimes to think of networking early in the process is not easy. But I would advise that you need to think about how it is phased in during the different stages of establishing the startup. Networking in earnest begins at the refinement stage and tends to be more intensive at the scaling up stage of the business. So again, you're building your contacts, whether that's through your trade organizations or through the local chamber of commerce, or through different organizations, like, for example, the golf club, or maybe even the mosque. The way that if you're at Friday prayer and you bump into somebody who's looking for your services, that can be very useful as well. And networking helps to develop a strong feeling of trust between the participants and plays a big part in raising the profile of a company. So again, networking is about giving as well as taking. So again, that's very important, and always delivering on what you say you're going to do is a critical part of that networking. Networking helps to establish long-term relationships and good reputation by meeting and getting to know people you can assist and who can potentially help you in return. There's a saying here, which in the UK, which is birds of a feather flock together. So basically what that means is that you tend to have good relationships with people that you relate to. And a lot of that takes time and effort. And again, that is what networking is all about. Networking doesn't happen straight away. It takes time to build a network, and effort and money to build a network. So again, don't think that you have to rush at it or whatever. Networking has a life of its own, but you need to be forever pushing it and making sure that you've got your finger on the pulse of what you're trying to do. So, but like I say, it is an essential part of your business and will help your business grow. So, what are the benefits of networking? So, first of all, it's strengthening your business connections. Sharing, not taking, building trust. I think we covered that, and again, going back to my own experience, it is important that when I was in London, that I had to spend time and effort up in the city of London, talking to the potential customers, getting to know them, getting to know their business, and again, listening. Listening is a critical part of understanding what the customer is looking for. Yeah, and so many people don't listen. Listening is an art, and it's very, very important that you develop that and you use it effectively. Again, in Kalimantan, it was really listening to the different stakeholders and what they required from a railway. Again, like I say, for example, the environmental issues, it was understanding from the environmental people what they wanted from the railway, how we could minimize the environmental damage from that railway. The important thing was that the railway was a lot less environmentally damaging than the hauling roads that were being proposed to move this coal. And so again, like I say, and also it was being used to eventually to be used for the local, for transporting the local people in the area. Again, it was understanding what the local government wanted, what the local mining companies wanted, and also then how it fitted into the national plan, Indonesia's national 5-year national plan. So again, that was important, and that meant speaking to all the different stakeholders and really trying to piece it all together. Getting fresh ideas, excellent source of new perspective and ideas, exchanging information and getting feedback may assist in formulating new insights. So that again is important. A lot of the time we think we know the answers, or we think we've got the perfect product for the marketplace, but by discussing it and getting honest feedback from our counterparts, sometimes then it allows us to modify our offering and make it better and more suitable to what the market demands. So again, it's listening. Listening is so important. More business contracts equate to more business knowledge. Allow for exchange of best practice, keeping abreast of industry developments, broader access to new and valuable information. Again, this comes from dealing with your trade organizations, maybe having a breakfast, or lunch meetings with people in the same trade as yourself, sitting down with the local chamber of commerce, understanding, again, what they can offer and how they can help. In Indonesia, you have a number of foreign Chamber of Commerce. You have Eurocham, you have AmCham for America, and you have BritCham for Britain. Again, like I say, I found it quite useful to sit down with those organizations and understand what the investor coming into Indonesia was looking for from these various countries. Different perspective, getting options on the subject from trusted contacts can shed new light on how to come over roadblocks that were proven difficult to circumvent. Again, a lot of the time in business, you have lots of problems crop up lots of times, and sometimes they seem insurmountable, and you think, how do I get over this problem? But again, talking to people in the industry, talking to your counterparts in other companies, that can help to shed new light on ways to overcome these problems. So networking has a big benefit right through, and it affects all levels of your business. And that's why I'm saying it needs to be included right at the start, right in your business plan. And there needs to be some sort of budget for that put in there so that you can really build your company successfully. Moving on. So again, I touched on this on the last slide, types of networking organizations, opportunities. Family and friend alumni are very important from your university. Contacts, for example, at the local Islamic Association, the local mosque, all these are part of your network. I know in Indonesia, for example, my experience has taught me, for example, my wife being graduated from Trisakti in Jakarta, that they do business is done a lot of the time and people like to work with alumni from their own universities. And it is interesting to see sometimes the rivalry that happens between the major universities in Indonesia, whether that's Trisakti or whether it's Gajah Mada in Jogja, or whether it's from Bandung or from University Indonesia. Again, like I say, I find that the graduates from these universities are very territorial, and they like to work with their networks within their own universities. Business contacts networks include referral groups, Chamber of Commerce, as we discussed in the last slide. Professional associations are always very useful. My own association is the Professional Golfers Association. I've got the highest class of membership there in the UK. And again, that can be a useful source of reference for me, and certainly was it previously in my previous positions. And also IAGI, which is the Indonesian Association of Geologists, which my wife is a member of. Also, obviously, the big, in many ways, the elephant in the room these days is the online social media outlets, including LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, so although I'm aware of these wonderful tools, I probably don't use them as much as I should do. But certainly LinkedIn is a huge has huge reach, and if you're on LinkedIn, then it gives it makes your details available to a worldwide audience. So it's really using those social media outlets effectively for your networking, and it is a fact of life that a lot of the time, if you're not on Facebook or you're not on Twitter, then you do lose out on business. But I'm sure that your tutors have been through this with you, and you do understand the benefits and the challenges of establishing these actual presences online presences. The next one is exhibition and conferences. These are very important. If you've got a product that you want to sell, again, like I say, it's picking the right exhibition and conferences. that you can promote your products to a wider audience, and also fantastic for networking. Like I say, I've been at the Modern Railways Conference and spoke there on Bali, and also on the Coal Trans Conference, which again have been very useful in enlarging my network, and also at the same time getting insight into recent developments in the actual industries. Again, you've got golf clubs, sports organizations, always good territory for networking. Again, like I say, people, when they're relaxed, they always can talk more, and you can get more out of people when they're relaxed than maybe when they're in the market, in their place of work. So again, that's very important. And again, supporting, promoting charity events, sports events, etc. Again, it's a way of networking and getting your brand out there. Ultimately, the whole from your startup, the one of the main focuses needs to be is to get your product branded out there so people recognize it. And again, like I say, that once you get that brand established, then you can grow, you can get to that final stage and start to grow your business exponentially, whether that's through organic growth, or through franchising, or taking over other businesses. So again, like I say, all these organizations, opportunities help to develop that brand and make it more susceptible and more amenable to the marketplace. Moving on. This is the hard facts now. We're coming into the and again, I'm sure that your tutors have touched upon this, but this is excuse me a second, I'll just have a drink. So really, this is not, a startup is not for the faint-hearted, and it is important to understand the reality of what you're getting into if you are deciding to start your own business. So 20% of startups fail in the first year, 34% of startups fail within 2 years, and 50% within 5 years. 25% of startups make it to 15 years. Only 1 in 10 survive. That's 10% survive in the long run. 30% of startups break even. 50% of startups operate at a loss. Now, the interesting thing is that startups with 2 founders significantly increase the likelihood of success by a factor of 3. And that is mainly, I think, because it's the old saying that 2 heads are better than 1. And also the fact that you potentially can bring more capital into the business. So again, it's always worth considering having a partner, or 2 partners, or 3 partners in your startup, because it seems that the single fighter has more difficulty and less chance of success. So again, that's a very important aspect when you're thinking of establishing a startup. Moving on. Now, this is interesting, and again, maybe it's a reflection on where Europe is at the moment. As you may be aware, we're in the UK here at the moment, and things are fairly grim. We have the whole economy in lockdown. And we have a new variant on this COVID-19, which is much more transmittable, and it's causing havoc here in the UK, so much so that I think over 50 countries now have banned travel from the UK. We've also, inshallah, we've also signed a Brexit agreement at the very last minute with Europe, which saves us falling into a no-deal scenario with Europe. And so this Brexit deal allows a certain degree of free trade with Europe, And as Europe is our biggest trading partner in the UK, I think most businesses are heaving a big sigh of relief that we don't have to start working with tariffs when we deal with Europe. There will be more paperwork, but I think the tariffs will be more or less similar to what are paid now. So with the bulk of the goods on a free trade agreement. But really, this is maybe a sign of the times that Britain might not be the only country considering leaving Europe. Now, my own opinion is that we should have stayed in Europe because I don't see any sense after 47 years of leaving an organization where we still had our own country, our own currency, sorry. We still controlled all the financial sector. We had London was still the hub of finance for Europe. And also we still had a lot of weight, carried a lot of weight in Brussels in the European Parliament. So for me, when the vote happened in 2016, I believe it was a very big mistake for the UK to leave Europe. That being said, the decision was made. And we are where we are. Now, the thing with Europe is that unlike Asia, Latin America, parts of Africa, the population is aging fast. And so one of the startling facts that spring out about from this slide is that 82% of first-time European entrepreneurs fail. Now, again, my feeling about that, and links into the slide from America, is that maybe that the European entrepreneurs are starting much later in life because of this age differential to other parts of the world, and maybe there's not the drive and determination that you have in Asia and South America and parts of Africa to make your business successful. So that is a startling statistic that springs out from this page. And again, 50% of startups fail within 3 years in Europe. If you look at the tech startup market in Europe, it's only $240 billion, whereas compared to America is $1.37 trillion, and Asia is 3 times the European tech startups value of the European tech startups market. So Asia is way ahead of Europe for tech startups. And again, it just shows, I believe, the dynamic of that younger population that is based in countries like India, like in Vietnam, like in Indonesia. If you look at the venture capital investment in 2016, Europe was a paltry 8 billion. America was 35 billion, so nearly 4.5 times as much venture capital into tech startups in America. One of the countries that is actually bucking the trend is Finland, and Finland is only a small population, about 5.5 million, about the population of Scotland. But it is bucking the trend, and I'll show you on the next slide. So this slide is headed, "Why are tech startups successful in Finland?" So history of tech companies, Finland has a history with tech companies. If you remember Nokia is still around, but more into the infrastructure side of things rather than phones. SMS, 5G, and Linux all came out of Finland. So currently, Finland has a 6 billion euro startup industry, tech startup industry, which which for a population of 5.5 million is the world's highest number of digital startups per capita. So that gives you an indication of how Finland is really focusing on this sector and making sure that it's one of the world leaders in this sector. So at the moment, you've got Google, Bayer from Germany, and GE Healthcare from America have large campuses, tech campuses in Finland. And the Finnish government have promoted a 90-day Fin scheme where foreign tech workers can have a 3-month stay in Finland to see if they wish to work in the country. Now, this 90-day fin scheme has just finished, and they've got 5,300 applicants, again, from all over the world, predominantly at the moment, America and Canada. But I'm sure if they run the scheme again, you'll find that they'll be coming in from other parts of the world. Now, this is I believe, an interesting scenario, and again, one that maybe governments in Asia need to think about on how to promote and how to bring in foreign tech workers into their countries. And obviously, Finland have got the ball rolling with their sort of out of the box thinking here with this 90-day fin scheme. But again, apart from bringing on your own talent, maybe this is a way that other countries looking to develop their tech industry can think about. Now, the Finnish government there's a lot of government assistance from the Finnish government. They provide all the official documentation. They give you the housing. They provide the schools, the daycare for your children, remote working. So you can, again, with COVID at the moment, you can still work from home. Introduction to tech hubs and networks. So they do all the hard work for you, introducing you to all the various tech hubs and networks within Helsinki, the capital of Finland, and assistance then if you do decide to stay with your permanent residency. So again, this is just really shows if countries start thinking out of the box and giving opportunities, and people do respond, and this application has been fully subscribed. So what about financial startup failures? That's probably not the right type of heading. I kind of got that wrong. What I'm trying to say there is the startups that fail due to financial problems or related to finance. And again, like I say, 79% of startups fail because they've started with too little money. Again, this is if you go back to the original slide from America, a large percentage of the startups started with less than $5,000. Now, again, if you can start your business with $5,000 and make it a success, that's a great achievement. But again, the figures seem to state that you really do need to have you need to be well capitalized. And again, this is where it comes down. If there's 2 or 3 partners in the business who are inputting into that capital, it seems that the business has more chance of success. 73% of startups have overly optimistic sales estimates. Again, when you write your business plan, you're looking at this, and of course, maybe you are a little bit, gung-ho. You're thinking that you have the best product out there, the best service out there, and that you're going to take the world by storm. But again, it is better to be more conservative on your sale estimates. Don't be overly optimistic, because there's nothing worse than starting high and then having to come down. Better to start from a low base and then build the business gradually. So basically, again, 77% of startups do not have appropriate products, services, pricing for the market. They haven't done their homework. They haven't done their market research. They haven't gone out there and decided on the pricing structure for their product. What is the pricing structure that fits into what the market can bear? That is very important. You have to, when I was in the golf industry, for example, it became obvious to me after a while that the technology that was flooding into the golf equipment side was wonderful for the customer, in that it was giving the customer equipment that was much more easily, which was much more playable than the equipment that I grew up with. The technology in ceramics, in graphite, in the oversized heads that came, so to if you like, widen the sweet spot, so like the heads of the clubs of the golf clubs became like tennis rackets. You could hit it off center and the ball would still go a long distance. Now, when with this technology, the price of the golf clubs became much higher, and the what tended to happen with the competition in the marketplace, you found that the golf professional in his smaller shop was having difficulty competing with the mega golf shops that were purely set up for retail in the high street. And the reason for that was that the golf professional couldn't get the deals of the high street. And so his pricing was uncompetitive compared to the high street. Now, myself and two other golf professionals of like mind then decided to set up a buying group, which basically was a number of golf professionals coming together. Eventually, it ended up close to about 500 golf professionals coming together that then had the buying power of these big high street retail concerns. And so we were able then to get our products at the same price or even better than the retail companies in the high street. And then we were able to compete much more with them. So again, it is very important that you price your product or your service so it has a place in the market. Many entrepreneurs underestimate the potential financial difficulties when designing a business plan. The volume and timing of sales is particularly difficult to project, which can lead to serious cash flow problems within the business, and in the worst case scenario, resulting in the business running out of cash. Again, like I say, what your terms and conditions for your payment from your customers are is a critical part of your business plan. Again, most companies can insist on 30 days payment, 60 days, 90 days, and you've got to have enough money in the pot to pay your fixed costs, like your rent, like your salaries, like your tax, your national insurance. So if you haven't got that payment schedule worked out correctly, then your cash flow gets hit. And that's very important. Again, that when you design that business plan, you understand the market, the customers that you're targeting, and what their payment terms are. Because like I say, everybody will try and get longer payment terms with you. Like I say, this is going to happen now when a lot of companies have gone to the wall here in the UK because of the COVID-19. And when we do get the vaccine and business returns to some normality, cash flow will be a problem for these businesses. And you can see that the actual customers will demand longer and longer payment terms. Moving on. Why do startups fail? Lack of competence can lead to overly optimistic planning, inexperience in managing a business resulting in bad decision making, including the buying the wrong inventory, or the cost of acquiring the customer is actually higher than the lifetime value of the customer. Lack of marketing and networking skill sets, failing to build a team within the business, taking poor advice from family and friends because maybe they're investors in your business and they maybe not have the experience but are inputting because they feel they can because they put money into your business instead of engaging with a mentor with experience of the sector. Again, out of all of those, I think the key components here are the cost of acquiring that customer is actually higher than the lifetime value of the customer. So again, you've got to do your homework. You've got to work out what the cost of getting that customer is. What's the cost of marketing? What's the cost of your networking? Build that cost and then divide it out between the amount of customers that generates. And then what's that customer going to generate for you over the lifetime of that customer being with you? And if those two equations don't add up, then you're in trouble. Again, like I say, get a mentor. A lot of people who start up a business, they don't have they have a great idea, they have a great concept, they want to take it forward, but they don't understand business. They don't understand the type of business they're in. And again, through the networking, you might be able to find a very experienced mentor who can help guide your business through the minefield that you will encounter. So again, that is very, very important to try and build into your business plan the fact that you will identify a mentor and be able to work with that mentor to grow your business. Why do startups succeed? Successful startups have a good understanding of the market. They know the market, they know where their product fits in that market or their service fits in that market. Successful startups are persistent. You've got to have the determination. That's why, again, I go back to my point about whether it's the younger generations in Asia and South America that are more persistent and drive the business harder, which makes those two continents more successful, and work harder to implement their business plan and have calculated a realistic cost of customer acquisition. Again, like I say, what is the cost of getting that customer to your business? Stand out from the competition. How do you differentiate your product or service from the competition? You know, that's very, very important. And anticipate the direction of the market. Yeah, which way the market's going. Again, like I say, we now have to think about how our market, for example, in the UK is going to go when we're out of Europe, technically out of Europe. So again, that's what the challenge is facing UK companies at the moment. Also engage with experienced mentors, which we touched upon, and reinvest your profits early on back into the business. If the business is going well, there's a temptation to think, all right, I'm going to buy a new car, or I'm going to buy a new set of golf clubs, or I'm going to, you know, and you take that money out of the business. You know, the key factor is in the initial stages, reinvest that profit back into the business, and it will help grow your business much more quickly. So some of I just want to touch on some of the major successes, because again, like I say, maybe I've painted a fairly bleak picture there of startups, but there are obviously huge successes in the startup sector, and they're called unicorns. Unicorns are successful startups that reach a valuation of more than $1 billion US. This was coined by a partner at a venture capital company called Aileen Lee. That was back in 2013. And in 2013, there were 39 unicorns worldwide. In 2020, this had exploded to 475 with a combined value of nearly $1.4 trillion. So that just shows in the space of 7 years that almost a multiple of what, 12 times the increase in unicorns worldwide. In 2015, it took 7.5 years to reach a unicorn status, but 2020, in 5 years, this has reduced down to 6 years. And obviously, the tech sector has demonstrated the biggest growth in unicorns. Now, there are Decacorns, which are, again, unicorns with a valuation of 10 billion and above. Huge successes. The most remarkable one is ByteDance, and that's the parent company, and that owns the parent of the company that promotes TikTok. Then you've got another Chinese entity, Decacorns, which is worth 56 billion US, and obviously we've all heard of SpaceX, and that's worth 46 billion at its current valuation. So that again is Mr. Elon Musk, who I believe now is the richest man in America, with the increase in the Tesla share price. It's hard to believe that Tesla now is worth more than companies like Volkswagen and Toyota. Who is leading the way for startups in Asia? It seems that the Indian government in particular have set the ecosystem to promote entrepreneurs in India. In 2016, the government launched the Startup India Initiative. According to the actual reports, half of India's population was considering to take advantage of this initiative. So if it's a 1.3 billion population, you're looking at what, nearly 650 million Indians considering becoming entrepreneurs, which is a phenomenal figure. In December 2018, the state of Maharashtra had 2,587 startups, which was the biggest in India. And between 2012 and 2017, India had generated 8 unicorns. SoftBank, which is a big Japanese investor in tech, but has lost its way a little bit, and then invested recently in WeWork from America, and has caught a very big cold with WeWork, which is really collapsing. And they have invested heavily in the Indian startup sector since 2014. One of the main concerns for the entrepreneurs in India is this cybercrime, which is obviously a growing threat worldwide at the moment, even affecting countries' elections. Right. Facts to be considered going forward. Unfortunately, the vast majority of startups don't get to second base, coining a baseball phrase from America. So that's important to realize that it is only the minority of startups that are successful. 75% of venture capital-backed startups fail. So even with the sort of intelligence that venture capital groups have, even 75% of their startups don't succeed. 50% of startups never make a profit. There are, however, great examples of tech startups in Asia, like Grab, Gojek, Tokopedia, to name a few. And there's a young and tech-savvy population in Asia, which we discussed before. And Indonesia, in particular, has a really dynamic young tech-savvy group of individuals who I believe will be the driving force for the startup sector in Indonesia. Interestingly, the Indonesian government has promoted Mr. Nadiem, who was behind, I believe, Gojek, the mastermind of Gojek, as the education minister, trying to bring that sort of tech sector mouse to the education sector in Indonesia. And also recently, Mr. Sandiaga Uno has been appointed as the tourism and creative economy minister. So again, reflecting that Sandiago Uno is a successful businessman, but he's a young, successful businessman. And obviously stood as vice president with General Prabowo. So very quickly, other global issues which must play into the sort of macro global issues, which will play into your decision on startups and whether you want to get involved in a startup, for example, in 2021. What would be your decision making hypothetically? What would you have to consider on the macro scale of things? Well, obviously you've got COVID-19 and the potential rollout of the vaccine. How quickly is that going to happen? It seems now that we have 3 or 4 vaccines that are coming into different countries. We have the Pfizer, we have the AstraZeneca with Oxford University, we have the Moderna one, and I believe you also got the Sputnik vaccine in Russia, and there is, I believe, a successful Chinese vaccine as well. You've got a new president coming into America. How is that going to affect global business? Is it going to make global business easier? Is he going to lessen tensions with America and with Iran? Again, that's important in set up your business. You need to understand the macro issues. China's relations with the West and the Belt and Road Initiative. China is plowing ahead with its Belt and Road Initiative and is investing heavily in countries that surround that Belt and Road Initiative. Middle East politics, Israel and Iran is President Trump's favoritism towards Israel going to be reversed with Joe Biden? Is the agreement with Iran going to be reconstituted? And one of the interesting things is Bitcoin, and I should put gold there as well. Bitcoin is this cryptocurrency that's really, again, just gone through the $20,000 per unit price. It's considerably up, and is this the future? Are we looking now to do more and more business in Bitcoin and less in dollars, for example? And obviously the big one, climate change. How is that going to affect us all going forward? How do we get more environmentally friendly? And is your business geared up to being, taking on the challenges of an ever-changing environment? Well, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed my presentation. I've tried to input bits of my own personal experiences, but I really appreciate you allowing me to participate today in your event. I think it's a fabulous opportunity for all concerned. And if there's any queries or questions that we can't fit into the next 20 minutes, then maybe you can direct them to Mr. Talbani, and I'll try and answer them later on over the next few days.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins, for the explanation, and it is very, very comprehensive, I think, and we all go through the micro sites from the startup itself, and then and last, you are closing it nicely by still, even though we are working on startup in very local environment, but we still have to think of the macro environment that will affect our business in the future. While we are waiting for the questions, I think those who want to ask questions, you can raise hand or write out your question in the chat room. And we are waiting for your question for the next 20 minutes. Meanwhile, Mr. Hopkins, I would like to, it is very interesting for me myself, because I work on on the startup as I'm not I do my business, but it's not really I'm not focusing on it. But I work on what you say, mentoring, or also do some consultation when the government asked me to work on the startup. As your explanation, we all need to consider all the things like you were saying when we try to do our new business, like concept, commitment, validation, refinement, and scaling to get the established company. But as now we are still encouraging, when you are explaining that in America, in Europe, or in India, the government, especially in India, government set up the environment, especially for the startup. But now I know that Indonesia government also tried to issue some policies on this startup and give some incentive, especially during the pandemic, also more incentive given out to startup and new, small businesses. But in Aceh, especially, we are still in encouraging our students to be a businessman rather than become a government, become the one who work for government. So we used to, and like most likely say to our student that start your business first, then you think about the problem later on. What important is you put your step on the business. So what would you think of this instead of the concept, the commitment, and everything you were saying? What do you think about this statement that people, young people especially, they should start first, then to get this, to get them involved and get the experience on it?
Yes, I think it's a very good question, and again, like I say, the opportunities in Indonesia are big for business startups, mainly because that you've got such a diversity of potential businesses. If you look at, for example, the sort of things like the agri side or the fishery side, or there's big potential for startups, and again, for small scale manufacturing, etc. And again, like I say, I think it really what it needs to, and I think you're right, what it needs to do is try and encourage these young people to go into business and develop their business ideas. And it needs the support of the universities, of the local government, of the bupatis. It really needs that support. Sometimes the paperwork in Indonesia can be a little bit prohibitive. So again, it's having the support from these local authorities, from the places like yourself, which can play such an important role in helping the young entrepreneurs to go through the paperwork, get the right permits, get what they need, and develop their idea. And again, one of the key things that as Muslims that is very important is the funding. As Muslims, we cannot have interest riba. We cannot use it now. Again, it's having that microfinance in place, whereby the institution takes maybe an interest in the business with the young entrepreneur, and can bring in people like yourself as a mentor. We have to get the money to work. We can't stick it in a bank and say, oh, it's going to earn 7.5% interest. And this is again, something that is so haram and something that we must avoid. So again, it's that microfinance is interesting. I know there was one American company, for example, that was looking to do microfinance in Indonesia. But at the same time, it was actually then going to pay the people putting the money into the microfinance in Bitcoin. So that was quite an interesting scenario. I'm like I say, I'm out of my depth here as far as talking about the fintech side of things. But at the same time, I think that it is important that we encourage these young people and give them as much support, because they have the dynamism to make it work and open up these opportunities for them.
Thank you. We already have 3 questions here from Lamin. He says that building network might be crucial as startup. You are not tend to be popular, or it might be difficult to gain trust. What would you say to help those startups to be able to successfully build the networks?
Again, yeah, I mean, he is right. Thank you for the question, Lamin. Again, this is about maybe using your family and friends, your university alumni, all the people that you know, to introduce you to different people of influence who can help you and to build that network. It is slow process. It doesn't happen overnight. So, but it is important that you build this startup. You build your startup through generating these contacts. And like I say, start with your local organizations. Go there and knock on the doors, say who you are, what you're trying to do, and don't be shy. That's the thing. Build it up. I've been very fortunate with Indonesia, and I have now about 1,300 contacts in my database of all different people from all over Indonesia during my time in Indonesia. And I've worked hard to build that database up. So again, ask for people's cards. Don't discard their cards. Keep their cards, and you never know where you can use that. Use them in the future, and you can do some reciprocal business with them. So when you have a meeting, always ask for the business card. Never go away from it. If they haven't got a business card, take their maybe their social media details, or their WhatsApp number. So that's important.
So keep the people contact is important, right, Mr. Hopkins?
That's it. It is important, and to use your own personal contacts first to open doors for you if you can. There will be somebody in your family who knows, somebody of influence that they can introduce you to. So to use that, dig down into your own family and friends, find out who they know. And like I say, always take the business card, always record the business card, and then always send them a follow-up. Just say, lovely for the meeting, really pleased to meet you. I know maybe we can't do anything at the moment, but please bear me in mind for the future. So never not follow up on a meeting.
Right. I believe also that here in Aceh, we have this culture of sitting around the coffee shop, and you know that in Aceh we have more than 1,000 coffee shop everywhere. So and people always share. So I think sharing within our own community about our thoughts will help us make other people remember that we have this kind of business, so they can help us around with the marketing out, as you were saying, that we start with our own community. And the next questions, yes, the next question from Easy. Why could the first stage of a startup, like pertaining to uphold the commitment, is very important in this early state of startup development? How would you say, but why the first step of building startup about pertaining to uphold the commitment is very important to financial planning? I think Easy want to have more exposure on this statement.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Again, like I say, it's the key to the successful business, the financial planning in the business plan is to ensure that you don't, as I said before, you don't have a lot of the failures in business are the fact that your business could potentially and run out of money because you haven't potentially. So it's really about how your business develops, and what you'll find is that a lot of the time in the initial stages you are very prudent. You are watching the pennies, if you like. You are being very careful as you build your business. You are watching your costs, and you have a strict control on costs. The key factor is when your business gets to that tipping point where it needs to grow, that you have the money available then to make it grow. So and take up that opportunity, because sometimes the windows of opportunity don't last that long. If you haven't got the cash to promote your product and get your sales and marketing team to promote your product, then and you haven't got those funds in place, then you don't reap the full benefit. And so the careful financial planning is critical, because in the early stages with a startup, you are very cost conscious. If it's your own money you're putting in there, you are watching every expenditure, and you're keeping those costs under tight control. But you've got to be in a position that when your product has got market awareness and has been accepted in the market, and then you have to take advantage of that you have the funds there to be able then to push the product hard and market it very hard. So that is why it is commitment that is to that financial plan that is very important. And a lot of the time, like I say, don't be overly optimistic with it. Make sure that you get it, that it's doable, but make sure that it's there, so that when the opportunity comes, you can take advantage of that opportunity when your product has acceptance, and you can then generate more customers for your product.
Yes, yeah, I think that's a very wide explanation. Is easy. I think you understand better now. And we have a question from Edward Nicholas. As an entrepreneur who wants to join a business networking, what are the factors that should be taken into consideration, or perhaps the factors that affect or influences business networking?
Well, again, it depends on your sector. Obviously, the key is to network within your particular business or industry that you've chosen. So that's obviously the key component there. There's no point in if you're for example producing natural cosmetics, there's no point in going into a network that's for example selling something totally opposite to that. So it is important to identify that network and also understand, like I say, the networks that surround you locally, because your business as a startup is going to be a local business. So you have to understand what the local chamber of commerce can offer you, and also what your trade associations can offer you, and then what again, like I say, check on the sort of social structures within your community, where you can maybe get into these social structures, where you can then meet people of influence, people who can help your product. So it's knowing your target audience. That's the key. At the end of the day, you got to know what your target audience is, and then design your approach that way.
Yeah, I think so. We have to look for information on our sector, so we can expand from there. And we have we collect all the information and seek for the networking from the information. Either it's from the supply chains or it's from the demand side. I think as economy student, they should know that, right?
Yeah. And also, again, like I say, if there's an opportunity for you to do a presentation on your product or your service,
yes.
Yeah, and you can sponsor like a breakfast meeting or a lunch meeting, and then promote your product to the people there. Maybe only 10, 15 minutes, but at least you get the message across.
Yeah. Okay. Next questions. It's also from Lamin. He said that also you mentioned that 1 in 10 of startups survive in the long run, which is kind of discouraging. So you think it's worth trying, even knowing that your chances of success in long run is in fact very slim? How
Well,
would say,
yeah,
yeah, how you say
yeah.
about that?
Well, I say yes. You've got to have a go. If you're if it's something that you really have a passion for. I mean, if you introduce me to a businessman who has never had failure, then I would say you're introducing me to a liar,
Yeah.
because every businessman has had failure.
Yeah.
And the difference between, for example, I noticed early on here in the UK, is that if you had a failure here in the UK, the banks don't want to touch you. The banks run away from you. They not interested. But in America, if you haven't failed 2 or 3 times, the banks aren't interested in you because they don't feel like you've got the experience. you
Yes.
know so it's, don't be afraid of failure,
Yes.
because everything is about experience,
Experience and
and
learning.
you will, yeah, exactly, and learning, and you will have so at the end of the day, you look at President Trump. He's been in bankruptcy, so, and yet now he's
Yes.
the he was the or he was the leader of the free world. So at the end of the day, everybody, like you don't ever be discouraged if you have a passion for what you do, and everything else. Go for it, because even if it doesn't work, it is about getting that experience,
Yeah.
and you can't buy that. At the end of the day, anybody who says they haven't had a bad experience in business, I certainly have had a number. They haven't been in business.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And this is the last question from Muhammad Ba. Uh, what are the new strategies plans that can be adopted in the early emergency of global pandemic like COVID-19?
Yeah, this is a really good question, and I think it just shows that we were totally unprepared in the West for this, and certainly Asia was far more better prepared than Europe or America. I think an interesting case recently I noticed is Taiwan, for example. Taiwan has had something like only 700 cases with a population of 23 million, and only about 10 deaths. Now, you take Taiwan is an island like Britain. It's got 3 times the population, so it's a third of the population of Britain. So if we'd followed the Taiwan lead, we would still have our businesses operating today. We would have maybe 30 deaths and 2,000 infections. But we now have nearly 70,000 deaths in the UK, and our businesses are at a standstill because we're in lockdown. So again, I think that the strategies that are adopted by countries like Taiwan are very important. There's a discipline there. The government has to work quickly and in conjunction with the scientific community. There has to be transparency all the way along with the people, and honesty with the people in the country, and at the same time, you have to have this track and trace, which again is very important, that people who have been in contact with people with the virus are contacted and say, okay, you're in self-isolation now, don't go out, don't infect anybody else. We call it in the UK the R number, and basically the R number, if it's below 1, it means that you're infecting less than 1 person. But if it's if it's above 1, for example, if R was 10 and the rate was 1. If R was 1.3, and for every 10 people you're infecting 13. So this is the key factors, I think, with the lessons that have to be learned from, and the new strategy plans that need to be adopted, not so much by Asia, because Asia had experience of SARS and MERS, and so they did have some experience of what a global pandemic is like. but the mistakes that have been made in Europe and in the UK in particular and in America are just inexcusable. And like I say, they've lost the people's trust now here. And again, there's maybe 30–40% of Britons don't want to have the vaccine, which is scary because we're not going to get to herd immunity and get the country back on its feet again. So it's a really good question. And, unfortunately, I don't think this will be the last global pandemic. I think, unfortunately, we will have more problems later on, So, and hopefully, the world will be better prepared.
Yes.
But thank you very much for the question. It's a really good question.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation, for all the questions asking in this seminar, and we are very grateful to have Mr. Hopkins with us to enlighten us with information on startup and networking, especially networking. It is a very for me myself it's a very useful information, and as I'm studying economics, so your explanation is new for me, and it's very enlightenment, and I think I will also share your information with other students, and we hope that all of this information can be spread throughout the students and all they are not working, and hopefully, inshallah, this will be your amal jariyah, and will back to you as your pahala, Mr. Hopkins.
Yes, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure to meet with yourself and your committee and the students there today. I'm grateful to the MC for conducting this, and I realize we're out of time, but thank you very much. And inshallah, I've never been to Aceh, and I really love to come. So
yeah, we are
hopefully
for you.
That's it. Hopefully, when the vaccine is we are safe again. I'd love to take the visit and love to come up to your institution and visit all your students there.
Yeah, maybe Pak John, Pak Bu Putri, one
Pak Talbini.
one word.
Yes, silakan. Yeah, silakan Pak.
One question, Pak John.
Yes, Pak.
This is like not out of the context, but this principle. May I know why you convert to Muslim, Pak? Because Aceh is all Muslim, alhamdulillah, society. So why you are interested in Muslim conversion, inshallah?
That's a good question. I grew up in a Christian household, went to all the Christian services, went to Sunday school, etc. But it never actually made sense to me. It never actually stood up as a way to lead your life, and when we talk about for example, the question there, when we talk about the business successes, I was very successful and was at one particular time very, very rich, and I thought that was all that mattered. But Allah had different plans for me, and he brought me down to earth with a big bump. And when I say, if you don't know failure, to the previous question, I know failure. And one of my businesses was brought down through no fault of my own. And so I ended up going to Indonesia because of this problem that I had. Alhamdulillah, I met my wife there, and talking to her, everything made sense. Islam was a way of life. That this is how to lead your life. This is how to do everything with your children. What's expected of you as a leader, as an imam in the family, etc. Everything added up, and it just makes common sense. Islam is a wonderful religion. It's got, it makes sense of why we're here, why we're preparing for the next life, and it makes sense of why we have a conscience, why the angel is taking notes every day on our shoulder, and we're preparing, us for the next life and for, Judgment Day. So everything makes sense. Unfortunately, the Torah, the Bible have all been manipulated over the years to suit the particular, the particular human powers that be. The Quran is untouched, and it really is a great way to lead your life. So I don't feel like I'm a convert to Islam. I feel like I was always a Muslim, but I didn't have that title because of the society I grew up in.
Thank you, Pak John. It's very awesome. Thank you for your everything from since the last, 7 years with us. Being with us, and then
Well, yeah, it's been a pleasure to have known Pat Albani and his family for probably a bit longer, maybe 8 or 9 years, and I've always found him a great influence on me, and always pointed me in the right direction with the religion. And I'm always very, very grateful for his wisdom and his assistance. So thank you, Pat. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm giving back the forum to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you. And I think that the next activity will be for the IABF to have a new election. So I'm giving back to the MC, and thank you, Mr. Hopkins, for the sharing. Thank you for all the audience for listening and asking the questions. And see you next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Putri.
Thank you, Pak Albani.
There's a photo session, maybe with Pak John a little bit. Photo, take a picture.
It's time for photo session. Please turn on your camera and give your best style. Ready?
Ini udah.
1, 1, 2, 3. For the next slide. 1, 2, 3. And the last one, next slide. 1, 2, 3.
Last slide. Last slide.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Putri, that lead the talk show very well, and also thank you so much for sharing to Mr. John Hopkins. We have a really great time listening to the talk show, and we hope it will so useful for us.
Okay.
Next,
See you. Then I can leave the forum now.
thank you so much, Miss.
Okay. See you. Good luck with the election.